Hey everyone, welcome back to another journey through history's most wonderfully weird moments. Tonight, we're diving into something we all do but rarely think about historically: sleep. And trust me, the way our ancestors approached bedtime would make your worst insomnia seem like a luxury. Before we drift into this nightmare of historical proportions, hit that like button if you're ready to feel grateful for your memory foam mattress, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy discovering just how much worse things used to be. Drop a comment letting me know what time you're watching this and whether you're already in bed, because after tonight's story, you might want to stay there forever. Now grab your favorite blanket, maybe light a candle for authenticity, and let's explore the absolutely bonkers world of historical sleep habits. Let's start with the Romans, who somehow managed to turn even unconsciousness into a social hierarchy. And you think your thread count matters? Romans had an entire class system based on sleeping arrangements that would make modern hotel star ratings look simple. At the bottom were slaves who slept wherever they collapsed, usually on the kitchen floor, in hallways, or curled up next to the family goat. No beds, no blankets, just stone floors and the hope that tomorrow might bring slightly less back pain. Roman citizens, however, turned sleeping into performance art. The wealthy didn't just have beds, they had sleeping. Picture this. Before retiring, a Roman patrician would be attended by multiple slaves whose only job was bedtime preparation. Slave warmed the sheets by literally lying on them first. Imagine explaining that job description to your career counselor. Another slave was responsible for dream preparation, which involved burning specific incense combinations believed to influence what you'd dream about. Want prophetic visions? That'll be myrrh and frankincense. Hoping to dream about your enemy's downfall? There was apparently a blend for that too, though historians are suspiciously quiet about the ingredients. The really wealthy Romans had what were called sleeping slaves, people whose entire existence revolved around ensuring their master's comfort. They fan you to sleep, adjust your pillows throughout the night, and even monitor your breathing to make sure you were properly unconscious. It was like having a human sleep app, except infinitely more creepy. Roman beds themselves were works of art, ornate wooden frames inlaid with gold and ivory, mattresses stuffed with rose petals and swan feathers, silk sheets dyed in colours that cost more than most people's annual. Some beds were so elaborate they required their own rooms, which were essentially shrines to sleeping. But here's where it gets really weird. Romans believed that sleeping too comfortably was morally dangerous. They thought excessive luxury in bed would make you weak and effeminate. So the truly virtuous Roman was supposed to occasionally sleep on the floor just to maintain their edge. Nothing says I'm ready to conquer barbarians like voluntarily choosing back pain. Fast forward to Victorian England, where people discovered just enough about science to make sleeping absolutely terrifying while still knowing nothing useful about actual health. Victorians were convinced that sleeping in the wrong position could kill you. Not metaphorically, literally kill you. They believed that lying on your left side would crush your heart, sleeping on your right side would damage your liver, and sleeping on your back would cause your brain to overheat and possibly explode. The only safe position was sleeping on your stomach, which explains why Victorians always looked so exhausted in photographs. But wait, there's more. Victorian doctors were obsessed with night air, which they believed was fundamentally different from day air and significantly more dangerous. Would seal their bedrooms tight against this mysterious atmospheric threat, creating stuffy, oxygen-depleted chambers that definitely improved nobody's sleep quality. The Victorians also invented the concept of sleep hygiene, but not in any way that would be recognizable today. Their version involved elaborate bedtime rituals. First, you'd brush your hair exactly 100 times, 50 for health, 50 for moral character. Women had the additional burden of proper sleeping posture maintenance. They wore special corsets to bed, not regular corsets, but sleeping corsets designed to keep their bodies in appropriately feminine positions throughout the night. Because heaven forbid a woman should sprawl unconsciously like some kind of barbarian, Victorian children had it even worse. They were taught that dreams were battles between angels and demons for control of their souls. Imagine being 8 years old and believing that having a nightmare about missing a spelling test was actually Satan trying to corrupt your eternal soul. The wealthy Victorians took this paranoia to artistic heights. They built sleep temples, entire rooms dedicated to achieving perfect unconsciousness. These featured special ventilation systems to filter the dangerous night air, walls painted in colours believed to promote virtuous dreams, and sometimes even mechanical devices that would rock the bed gently throughout the night. One particularly unhinged Victorian invention was the sleep measurer, a contraption that monitored your breathing, heart rate, and movement during sleep, then produced a detailed report card of your unconscious performance, because apparently, even in your dreams, you needed to be productive and properly supervised. Ancient Egyptian dream bureaucracy. When sleep required paperwork, the ancient Egyptians took dream interpretation so seriously, they created what was essentially a governmental department dedicated to unconscious experience. Imagine having to file a report every morning about what you dreamed the night before. That was reality for many Egyptians. Professional dream interpreters held official positions in the pharaoh's court, complete with titles, salaries, and probably some very awkward performance reviews. These weren't mystical fortune tellers, they were civil servants with standardized dream interpretation manuals and strict protocols for processing unconscious vision. The Egyptians believed that during sleep, your soul literally left your body and traveled to other realms. Every morning you had to prove that your soul had successfully returned by recounting your dreams in perfect detail to designated officials. They built elaborate dream chambers in temples where people could pay to have professionally monitored sleep experience. These rooms were decorated with specific symbols and colors designed to attract favorable dream spirits while repelling malevolent, unconscious influences. It was like a spiritual sleep study, except instead of monitoring for sleep apnea, they were checking whether your soul had encountered any hostile deities. Egyptian children were taught formal dream etiquette from an early age. There were proper ways to enter a dream, appropriate behavior while unconscious, and specific protocols for interacting with dream entities. Apparently, even in your sleep, you needed to maintain proper social decorum and diplomatic relations with supernatural beings. The wealthy could purchase dream insurance, elaborate burial preparations that included specific spells and amulets, because apparently spending eternity was bad enough without having to worry about eternal nightmares too. Medieval people approached sleep like military generals planning a siege. Ancient aims to counter darkness, demons, and the constant possibility of violent death. Castle bedchambers weren't designed for comfort. They were fortified sleeping positions. The beds were placed strategically so sleepers could see all entrances, grab weapons quickly, and ideally survive assassination attempts without fully waking up. The concept of sleep shifts emerged from pure paranoia. Imagine having to coordinate your unconsciousness with your neighbors. I'll take the 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. watch, you handle dawn patrols. Medieval people were convinced that demons were most active during sleep, so they developed elaborate defensive sleeping rituals. Beds were surrounded by religious symbols. Going to bed wasn't retiring for the night, it was entering a spiritual combat zone. They created sleep armor, special night clothes embedded with religious relics and protective symbols. Some wealthy individuals slept in actual chain mail because apparently being comfortable was less important than being prepared for otherworldly attacks. Medieval children were taught battle lullabies, songs that were part bedtime comfort, part military preparation. These ditties taught kids how to identify different types of supernatural threats and respond appropriately while half asleep. Nothing says sweet dreams like a song about recognizing demonic possession symptoms. The Great American Sleep Experiment, when Manifest Destiny met bedtime American pioneers, turned sleeping into extremes. Moving west meant abandoning every civilized sleeping convention and making up new ones based on survival, stubbornness, and whatever materials you could carry in a wagon. Children learned to sleep through gunshots, storms, and their parents debating whether that sound outside was wind or something with teeth. The covered wagon became America's first mobile bedroom, and it was exactly as uncomfortable as it sounds. Families of 8 would squeeze into a space barely large enough for 2 modern adults, with all their worldly possessions, tools, food, and occasionally livestock. Privacy was a luxury left back in civilization along with bathtubs and reliable roofs. Americans invented sleeping democracy, the idea that everyone, regardless of social class, had an equal right to unconsciousness. Of course, this equality meant everyone was equally miserable, but it was misery with principle. Western towns developed unique sleeping cultures based on their primary industry. Mining towns had shift sleeping where beds were rented in 8-hour blocks to accommodate round-the-clock mining operations. The same mattress might host 3 different sleepers in a single day, which created fascinating hygiene challenges that no one talks about in history books. Cattle towns developed seasonal sleeping, comfortable beds during quiet months, sleeping rough during cattle drives and market season. Cowboys became experts at sleeping anywhere, in any weather, while remaining alert enough to respond to stampedes, storms, or rustlers. American frontier women became sleep engineers, creating comfortable resting spaces from virtually nothing. They could transform a pile of buffalo hides into a reasonably comfortable bed, build effective windbreaks using wagon parts, and the Industrial Sleep Revolution. When machines took over bedtime, the Industrial Revolution didn't just change how people worked, it completely revolutionized how they slept. Factory towns created the world's first standardized sleep schedules. Everyone went to bed at the same time, woke up at the same time, and dreamed the same exhausted dream. Sleep became just another industrial process to be optimized for maximum productivity. Workers developed shift sleep disorders decades before doctors had names for them. People working night shifts had to sleep during the day in industrial housing that wasn't designed for daytime sleeping. Imagine trying to rest while factory machinery operated directly outside your paper-thin walls. Factory owners became obsessed with sleep efficiency. They commissioned studies to determine the minimum amount of sleep workers needed to remain functional, then designed. It was scientific sleep deprivation with profit margins. Industrial cities developed unique sleeping challenges. Coal smoke created air quality so poor that opening windows for fresh air, closing windows meant suffocating in stuffy, oxygen-depleted chambers. There was no winning combination. The emerging middle class tried to distinguish themselves through elaborate sleeping ritual. They developed complex bedtime ceremonies, invested in expensive sleeping furniture, and created sleeping societies where members would gather to discuss proper unconscious techniques. Era children experienced history's first sleep scheduling conflict. Their natural sleep patterns didn't align with factory town schedules, creating generations of chronically sleep-deprived young people who grew up thinking exhaustion was a normal part of human existence. Sweet dreams and historical nightmares, so the next time you're lying in your temperature-controlled bedroom, on your comfortable mattress with your choice of pillows, maybe spare a thought for your ancestors who treated sleep like a military operation, spiritual quest, or survival challenge. Each era found new and creative ways to make unconsciousness complicated, dangerous, or socially significant. Insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome. These would have seemed like luxury problems to people who were primarily concerned with not freezing, not getting eaten, not having their souls stolen by demons, or not suffocating in coal smoke while trying to rest. Maybe tonight, as you drift off to sleep, you'll appreciate just how boring and wonderful modern. No dream bureaucrats to report to, no sleep armor required, no need to coordinate unconsciousness with your neighbor's military watch, just you, your bed, and the revolutionary concept that sleep can be comfortable, private, and completely unproductive. Sweet dreams, everyone. And thanks for joining me on another journey through history's wonderfully weird moments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which historical sleep horror story shocked you the most.